I want to understand.
This is the intro song to the podcast King of the What Now. Join us as we go on a journey, going to talk about pirates, battle and adventure. We think we're pretty funny. We hope you will too. Luffy, he's gotta be the king of something. We weren't really listening. Sorry about that. Hopefully he'll achieve his dreams. Yeah.
Hello, fellow adventurers of the Grand Line, and welcome to episode 19 of King of the What Now. We're here to discuss the anime One Piece. I'm Joel, longtime fan. I've just been stabbed.
And I'm Curtis. I betrayed Joel.
No, it's okay, guys. It's okay. It's actually part of a thing. I'm a ghost now, for now. But it's very clear that I'm not dead.
A ghost, quote unquote.
A quote unquote ghost. Yes, perfect. All right.
Not like our actual ghost.
No, not like the ghost who sometimes joins the podcast from time to time. Oh, that reminds me, I was thinking of making that a recurring segment. So I'm just going to set these candles back up. The blood has been cleaned up. I no longer need it. The goat head back in place. Baba baba baba. Baba baba baba. Baba baba baba. Speak, apparition. Tell us what you think will happen in the Arlong Park arc.
I think Sanji is going to become a mermaid.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Baba baba baba. Baba baba baba. She's now returned to her resting place. I think that's how ghosts work, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make up the canon as we go along because that's what a professional does. Okay, so we just finished watching the first 3 episodes of the new arc of the Arlong Park arc, episodes 31, 32, 33. Basically just kind of the introduction to the arc. And Curtis, why don't you go ahead and give us the summary?
1 second here.
Curtis has decided to go back to his note-taking method. For those of you keeping track at home, he basically alternates every chunk of episodes. He either takes notes or doesn't, and then there's something about it that makes him switch to the old method, but then there's something about that makes him switch to the old method.
Depends on whether I'm being lazy or not.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
I thought it's because you took too many notes.
Well, for one of these episodes I did.
Okay.
So, we start off, and we have, you know what?
The camera zooms in 90 degrees. It's a bird-eye view of a village. 4 people are walking in a line. The camera zooms down. One of those people is a character we haven't met yet, with green eyes, who turns to the left and says, "What's that over there?" Come on, Curtis. Just tell us what you remember happening.
What you were referencing.
No, I was just making up, like, directorial, like, talking about, like, fade to black, title screen. Good.
Okay. No, good job.
Thank you.
You should, I'm gonna start now. Okay. So, we start off, we've got Luffy and Sanji, they're on a ship, they're trying to catch up with Zoro and Usopp,
yes,
who are trying to catch up with Nami, who's stolen their ship.
Yes.
All of this was established in the previous arc. So, on their way there, Sanji and Luffy are talking with one of the 2 people whose names I forget because they're not that important.
Johnny and Yosaku.
Yes,
they
one
could
of those
be important. 2. You don't know that.
Okay, well, they are clearly minor characters, Joel.
Okay.
Anyways, okay, it was Yosaku because Johnny's with the other ones. So Yosaku ends up explaining to them about the 7 warlords of the sea, or the Shichibukai, as you were telling me.
Shichibukai is how I pronounce it, yes.
Yes.
But it's literally the Japanese for 7 warlords, but in the manga they don't translate the versions I read usually.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to call them the 7 warlords. So, they're the same thing.
Yes.
Anyways, of which the Mihawk we've met, and then there's another guy called Jinbei.
Yes.
Who is another fishman, and the reason that's important is because there's a fishman they're about to go meet named Arlong. We were a little confused because in the English version of this, they seem to imply that he, as one person, is on the same level as all 7 warlords.
Right, yes.
But I think that was a mistranslation for the dub, because it's not in the subtitles.
The subtitles were a little different. So, there are 3 powers that keep the Grand Line in check, and they're the 3 powers that make it a pirate graveyard. If you're a pirate and you enter the Grand Line and you run into one of these 3 entities, you are basically dead, is what Johnny or Yosaku is trying to say. And one of those 3 was the 7 Warlords of the Sea, and they don't go into details about the other 2. You'll find out about them in like 400 episodes, which is the number I always pick. But Yeah, it was a weird translation because they were like, Arlong used to do the Grand Line, or used to attack people in the Grand Line, and then he stopped, so now he's here.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, he's a big deal is the kind of the general point.
Yes, and that's why Yosaku was all freaked out about them going to the island.
Because he has fear like a regular human. Stupid regular human fear.
Yeah. Basically, that's all that's important on that ship. Zoro and Usopp and Johnny, as they're getting to the island. Nami already got there, and she's gone in, right? Zoro, Usopp, and Johnny, they're about to land, and then they see the fishmen, and they freak out, and they try to hide. And then, eventually, the fishmen come to investigate the boat, so Usopp and Johnny abandon Zoro, who gets captured. Zoro gets taken to Arlong Park, which is like the headquarters for the Arlong Pirates.
Doesn't look much like an amusement park, despite being called. But anyways.
So he gets taken there, finds out that Nami works for the Arlong Pirates.
Gasp!
Yes.
She has a sick tattoo on her left shoulder that's the pirate flag, what do you call it? The Jolly Roger of the Arlong Fish Pirates. Mm-hmm. And in the One Piece world, the Jolly Roger is absolute loyalty to a thing. Like, you see Zoro being like, oh my god, when he sees it on her shoulder.
Meanwhile, Usopp makes it ashore and gets to the village that they were about to go to, which is near Arlong Park. Mm-hmm. Gets chased by a fishman and gets saved by a lady who we later find out is named Nojiko. Mm-hmm. And that's the end of that episode.
Do you want to describe that village that Usopp was going through? Was there anything about it?
It was all turned upside down, literally.
There were houses that were roof on the ground and then bottom of the house facing towards the sky.
And apparently even the street was upside down, which doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't. Something just basically came through and like carved up the road, and it was something big.
Yeah. Okay. So then we have back with Sanji and Luffy, right? Mm-hmm. They get attacked by a giant sea creature named Momu, who is attracted by Sanji's cooking.
Yes.
Sanji fights Momu and defeats it, and then they enslave the poor thing and make it pull the boat towards the island.
Which is a pretty good visual joke. It's basically a horse-drawn carriage, but in the water with a giant sea creature.
Yeah, so the sea creature is a sea cow, by which I mean it looks like a giant manatee that is bigger than a ship with a cow head, including like the nose ring.
The nose ring, and it has the nose, or the cow nose, and it also has cow spots all over, but the head is the most cow-like of all of it. And
has some random scales, I didn't get that. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, so then, meanwhile with Usopp learns more from Nojiko about Nami. Supposedly, Nami betrayed her family for money. We find out later that, well, I guess they didn't fully explain it. So, Nami and Nojiko were both adopted, and their mother died. I'm assuming that it was the Arlong Pirates that killed them. They might have said that explicitly, I don't remember. But
they have not stated explicitly what happened to the mom.
Okay. But their mom is dead, and she went and joined the pirates. She apparently made a deal with Arlong that for 100 million berries, which is what she's been trying to collect this whole time, she can buy her village from Arlong.
And Arlong wants the money because he's trying to basically build an empire. Oh, and so Arlong, all of the pirates we've met so far have had like something that is kind of their focus. Arlong's thing is, I trust money more than people, so if you give me money, I'll spare you. So he's basically ruling with an iron fist and saying, I will kill you if you don't pay me, but if you pay me the exorbitant fees, awesome. And that's why the village was turned upside down, the one that Usopp found, because they didn't pay, and so they decided to make a example. That's the word that you
used. Was that a different village than
Kokiyashi?
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought that was Kokiyashi. I was really confused. I thought maybe there was a segment that got flipped and a segment that didn't.
Okay.
Or something. But that makes more sense, because they do actually mention that he had made an example out of one village. So basically, the Arlong Pirates force everyone in a village to pay tribute on a regular basis. And if even one person cannot pay, they destroy the entire village. So they did that recently with the village to make an example to all the other villages that he rules.
Yes, which is called Gosu. And as soon as that's a really small detail, but Gosu and Kokiyashi Village are the only two that we've seen so far. But as he says, I will kill, not he, as someone explains that everyone in a village will be killed if they can't make the money, my first thought was, that's not sustainable because you want that money. And then later when Arlong is going on a rampage and about to destroy an entire village, his men point that out too. They're like, if you just keep destroying villages, where are we gonna get the money from? So he's kind of ruling with an iron fist, and obviously people don't want to die, and he's not above killing people, but in the grand long-term scale scheme of things, I don't think this is a good business practice.
Yeah. So back at Arlong Park, we've got Nami and Zoro. Zoro is tied up. Zoro jumps into the water tied up, so he's going to drown. Basically calling Nami's bluff because Nami's claiming to not care, right?
To be a pirate and she doesn't care if people die, that's right.
Yeah. So she jumps in and saves him because she loves him, and obviously they are meant to be together. That is me commentating on it. That's not in the show. That's not
it's not explicitly stated or anything like that, no.
Anyways, so then they take Zoro and they put him in a prison somewhere. Let me see. Tribute money. Oh, I talked about that. Oh yeah, so then later on, Nami comes into the prison cell and cuts the ropes that are tying up Zoro and gives him the one sword he has remaining back.
Yep.
So that he can get away. Meanwhile, back in Kokoyashi...
Which is also... Oh, well, I guess you're probably going to touch on that later. Just go on.
Yeah. Oh, I did not write the guy's name down.
Gen?
No, I did. Yeah, Gen. I have to put it right here. So, Gen is going to be executed or punished by Arlong for collecting weapons, which he said he does as a collector, and Arlong's not buying that. And Usopp steps in and shoots Arlong from like the
top
the
of
rooftop,
the building,
right?
Yep.
And then a bunch of pirates chase him down. Eventually, they capture him and they take him back to Arlong Village. Before he gets taken back, Zoro, who has been cut free, right?
Mm-hmm.
Takes out everybody who's left at Arlong Park, which does not include Arlong, because Arlong is currently in Kokoyashi, right?
Sure.
And I think Nami ends up going over there too later, probably around the same time. And he, after defeating everybody there, gets one remaining guy who's apparently an idiot who was outside fishing to take him to the village. So he goes to the village now. So he's going to the village while Usopp, who got captured, is taken from the village back to Arlong Park.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember exactly. Oh, so Nami does some stuff in the village. I guess it's important to her backstory. It's not immediately important right now. We can talk about it more later. She gets back to Arlong Park, and the moment that has been prophesized, she goes up and she stabs Usopp. But we're pretty sure she didn't stab Usopp. So she comes away, there's blood on the knife, and there's blood all over her hand.
The camera angle is such that you can't see the knife go in. It shows basically Usopp's back, and she stabbed him in the front, in the stomach or whatever. And they were kind of separated from the rest of the group, so like maybe they could have had secret whispering conversations. We don't know.
On top of that, I noticed that in the last scene with Nami, in the last episode, you see that her hand is bandaged, which is not something that would happen if you didn't cut your hand, right?
Sure.
Which could explain where the blood came from. And the very last bit that we see is some person walking along the beach with like a bunch of like, I don't know if this was seaweed or whatever.
Towels or something?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Covering him. And he goes, "Am I a ghost?"
And the voice sounds oddly familiar, too.
Yes. No, it's definitely Usopp.
Yes.
That is my assumption, and I feel like it wasn't very well hidden. The one bit I glossed over here is that Luffy and Sanji finally get to the island.
Yep.
They literally run into Zoro.
Like, actually, Zoro gets hit by the ship, which got, like, thrown in such a way that it was kind of flying, floating, whatever you want to call it, falling.
So they all get reunited, along with Johnny and
Yosaku?
Yosaku. I was going to say Toyohashi, which is...
Interesting.
Not in this show, I don't think.
No.
So we got Yosaku, Luffy, Johnny, Zoro, and Sanji all together, and Johnny informs everybody that he saw Nami kill Usopp, and everyone's like, "Oh!"
Yep, and that's where the episode ends, and we don't know what's going to happen next.
Yes.
Okay. Curtis, what do you think will happen next?
You just said we don't know, Joel.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm asking you to extrapolate from the information.
Okay. Based on this information, I think they're all going to go get shawarma.
Okay.
I think that's the only thing they can do, really.
That's an interesting to mourn the loss of Usopp. We know that shawarma is his favorite food, as has been demonstrated countless times.
Yes.
No,
I think, okay. I think it's obvious that Nami is not actually interested in betraying Luffy and the crew, but she has to keep up appearances so she can finish her deal with Arlong.
Yep.
I don't know where because I think she said she's 8 million away from her final total or something like that. It's like
it's less than 10 million. I think it was 7. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So she still has to, like, it's been taking her 8 years to get to this point, right? I don't know exactly what she's going to do to fill that gap in this right now.
Okay.
I'm guessing that so Arlong would definitely fulfill his end of the deal, but I'm still like I have a feeling that there'll be like some sort of loophole and they'll have different understandings of what selling the village to her means.
Okay. What, you can't trust pirates? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, yeah, that's it. Like, he said, like, he would never...
He'd rather kill himself. Is like, he literally outlined the steps for seppuku. Is that seppuku, how's it pronounced?
Yes, seppuku.
But, you know, he'd rather cut his belly than go back on a deal made about money.
Yeah. So there's that. So it makes me feel like, yes, he would sell it to her, but I feel like that's not going to guarantee the safety of her village.
Okay.
So that's what this arc's going to be about. Is like, I think eventually Luffy's crew is going to realize, okay, well, first of all, she didn't actually kill Usopp, though I don't think that's going to get resolved in the immediate next episode.
Okay.
Or at the very least, it won't get resolved near the beginning. It'll be at the end, maybe at an episode or two.
Sure.
And then figure out what's really going on, and then her plan's going to fall apart, and then they're going to have to basically fight the Arlong pirates.
Okay. I like that. One thing I will point out when you say I don't know how she's going to get the 7 million in the next couple of episodes, or what's going to happen when the deal goes through, something to point out is that so far we have yet to see an arc that gets resolved by something other than punching. So it's possible that this will be the one that breaks away from the mold, but it's also possible, like you said, that the plan would fall through.
Yeah, and then it would have to get resolved by punching.
Yes, exactly. So that is great, and that is wonderful. One thing I do want to point out, I told you that his name was Gen. I mean, spoiler alert, you don't see him a whole lot, like, later in the series, so it's not like I have his name memorized, but I thought it was weird you pointed out that the subtitles called him Gen-san, which is Gen plus the Japanese honorific, but they were verbally calling him Genzo, so I looked it up, and the English version is Genzo. So, I'm sorry I lied to all of our fans about how to pronounce that guy's name.
So are we going to say Gen or Genzo?
Genzo, I think.
Okay.
I'm going to try to stick to the English names as much as possible.
Okay, Genzo it is.
Yes. And another thing that's kind of cool about him is, if you're not watching these shows along with us or it's been a while, he's the guy who has a bunch of scars all over his body. He basically looks a little bit like Frankenstein's monster, except he's clearly still alive. He's not a bunch of dead body parts. But yeah, he has a lot of scars. There might be a backstory about that.
He also has a pinwheel in his hat.
He does. And every single time there's a scene with him, it shows the pinwheel spinning or stopping, and then it zooms down to show his face. So maybe that pinwheel is actually the secret weapon of the villagers.
What if he's not a human?
Oh.
What if he's a sentient pinwheel?
That attached itself to the...
That's pretend, like, has like a fake human body so he can walk around.
Or what if he's a robot? He's been cut apart so they could put the circuitry in, and that's how he's powered. He's wind powered.
Oh my god.
If it ever stops spinning for more than 7 seconds, that's when he powers down.
Oh god, I'm gonna die!
Nojiko, she's going to be throughout this arc for sure. She looks almost exactly like Nami. Like, I would say they probably have the same figure, the same kind of slim body or whatever. They have the same hair length and the same hairstyle, but she's blue or kind of lavender purple-y compared to Nami's orange, but...
I would like to say that they're inconsistent with the way they draw people.
Okay.
It's specifically apparent with Nami and Nojiko, but especially Nami, since we've seen her more. But, like, there'll be times when, like, she will literally be like a stick figure, like almost but she just changes size constantly.
Okay.
And he'll do that, like, I feel like, with, depending on how far out they are, how detailed he gets in that. But I think in general, he's kind of plays fast and loose with how he draws people.
Sure. I would agree with you. I've seen, like, pictures of, like, hey, check out these two scenes next to each other. And this is definitely early in his art career. Like, he gets better as he gets further.
That's what I figured.
But I will also point out that I usually don't notice that when I'm listening to film critics being like, there was a lot of green screen in this movie. 99 times out of 100, I don't notice at all, even if it's quote-unquote glaringly obvious. So I probably won't be able to point those things out to you, but if you note them, then I'll believe you. I'll take your word for it.
There was, like, one specific scene. I think it was when she was looking at Usopp, or right after she stabbed him, or something, where it was like, this was awkwardly drawn.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've now started a new arc, and this isn't something that we've discussed before in previous arcs, but did you pick up on any kind of themes that might be explored in this arc with these new group of people?
So we got money.
Okay.
Money and greed. I mean, I forgot to mention, so it opens up with, well, it doesn't open up with this, but early on in the first episode of the arc, there are a bunch of Marines at Arlong Park, and Arlong is paying them off, right?
Yep. Because he's a known pirate, but somehow the Marines haven't come to try to capture him or whatever, and...
Yeah, and so they kind of let him have his own area, right? That's why he rules this area and these villages, is because he pays the Marines get some amount of tribute themselves, right?
Yep.
And when we're getting the backstory on the Seven Warlords, it's established that that's kind of a similar process for, like... So, like, the world government sanctions them, right?
Authorizes them to basically do whatever they want.
Yeah, so my assumption is they probably pay something into that. Because the world government must get something out of it. So if it's either money or it's just that they don't have to deal with them, right? They give them some territory and then they don't have to worry about them, something like that.
Okay.
Or because, they probably couldn't actually stand up to them straight out, so...
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and we've only met one member of the warlords, and there's 6 others, and they could be much stronger than Mihawk or much weaker than Mihawk, and those two possibilities would have completely different effects on the story. But we will probably explore them later in the series, but this was more world building than it was information you need right now. The warlords aren't going to be brought up at all in the current arc.
Yeah. I figure that, it's not going to be until we get to the Grand Line that they become...
Because that's where they kind of act... Where they are active. That's the word I'm looking for.
It is interesting to me that Arlong supposedly went up and down the Grand Line, but then he came back, right, to the East Blue?
Sure.
Actually, no, I guess that kind of makes sense. So I think it makes it obvious that he's probably not super strong compared to the rest of the people on the Grand Line. Oh. So he's strong relative to everyone else in the East Blue.
Yep.
But... You don't, abandon an area and go, I'm going to go back down and play in the sandbox again if you're doing better on the rest of the playground, right?
Okay, I totally get that. That tracks. We'll have to see how that plays out. Now, what I was hoping that you would pick up on when I was asking about the theme, the money thing is very important. That's kind of Arlong's personal philosophy. But Arlong himself, as a fishman and being connected to the larger world, is more of a statement about racism, more so. Because the fishmen are these people that are different from humans, and they live underwater and they have all these different abilities, but they're a minority as far as I can tell. I believe that there's a smaller number of them, and we saw it in several interactions with Nojiko and the marine guy who showed up. I don't remember his name, but he looked like a mouse. But basically they kept pointing out that humans and fishmen see each other and humans go, those fishmen look really weird. And the fishmen look at humans and they go, those humans are really weird. And so that kind of thing is interesting. And the reason why Arlong was so heck-bent on getting Usopp captured is because how dare a mere human attack me? So he's got some anger issues, and spoiler alert, as always, it kind of comes with, it's a little bit of that racism stuff.
They do also establish that the fishmen are stronger.
Yes.
Like a typical fishman, I think you said it was they say in there, a typical fishman is 10 times stronger than a typical human being.
Yep.
And then obviously the ability to breathe underwater as well on land is beneficial. Yeah,
and really quickly, for those who are just listening and not watching the episodes, the fishmen are treated as everyone knows about them. It's not like if we started talking about mermaids in the real world, we'd be like, what are you talking about? That's a myth. Fishmen are just a factual part of the world, and they typically have 2 legs and 2 arms, but their skin can be color as a fish, and they each have a specific fish that they kind of have the blood of. So Arlong is a saw-nosed shark, and he has the long nose. And the guy that took Zoro around in the fish pot was an octopus dude. He had 6 arms and 2 legs and all that stuff.
That makes sense. I was wondering because I saw, I was like, I feel like he only has 6, and I was like, oh.
The legs, yes.
That counts.
And his name is Hachan, but everyone calls him Hachi, which isn't that that just
that means 8? Yeah.
Okay. So they were another not very subtle naming scheme if you know the Japanese language. Okay. So what did you think of these 3 episodes as an introduction to the new arc?
I mean, I'm intrigued. I feel like it was a little bit better as... Because, I mean, it has a lot of exposition, but I feel like a lot of the information we got was interesting.
Okay.
As opposed to some of the other ones where, like, you get some information, but I think it might also be that some of it's, like, information I knew already coming into it. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's why part of this is more interesting to me, because I didn't... Like, I know there are different powers in the world in that, but I don't remember anything about the 7 warlords or...
okay.
Also, like, trying to piece together what Nami's backstory is interesting, so... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they give you a couple of hints, and if you were really astute and you wanted to think of, like, what's the most likely, you could probably eventually come to the answer on your own, but it's also not clear enough that a lot of people probably wouldn't be able to guess, right? But in hindsight, all the clues kind of fit in the piece. I would say that one of the reasons why the backstory exposition is kind of interesting is I feel like they broke it up with a lot of like mini action scenes. You have Usopp attacking, you have Zoro jumping into the water, you have Sanji and Luffy attacking this sea cow and stuff like that. So I think that as the story goes along, you get more characters and you can kind of cut between one person just telling a sad story and then someone punching a really strong monster dude.
Well, I think another reason I liked it, like, no offense towards Luffy, but he can kind of get samey.
Okay.
Right? Like, so I think having kind of, like, more characters around has helped a lot.
Okay.
So that means that you don't have as much time just devoted towards Luffy. Like, Luffy, when he's at it, like, there are 2 times I like Luffy. One is in, like, small doses of humor. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is when he's, like, doing something epic. But it's hard to, like, build whole episodes with just that.
Yep.
So it's nice having more characters.
Especially at the beginning of an arc, because Luffy's the sort of guy who, like, doesn't punch someone until his anger gets to a certain level, and it takes time to kind of poke him and for him to learn more about the world. And
yeah.
Yes.
And I feel like this was a good use of his humor ability between him and Sanji on the ship on their way here.
That was so good.
And it was like, you know, it wasn't heavily used, so it was better.
Okay.
I liked it.
I completely agree. How did you like Zoro leaving Arlong Park right as Usopp was showing up and Nami having to keep being like, I'm with you guys. Oh, don't ignore Zoro. He's not going to interrupt our plans. And internally she's like, oh, Zoro is messing with her. It's just, this dynamic will get even crazier as you go further. Something you'll notice is that almost every arc ends up with them going separate ways in some way, and then the arc usually doesn't resolve until they're all back together in some central location, and it's just wonderful.
I am surprised, like, she probably could have just told them what was going on beforehand. And I feel like this all could have gone better.
Maybe. What would happen if you told Luffy...
No, you couldn't tell Luffy.
Exactly. If you told Luffy or Zoro, they would immediately... Probably even Sanji. He seems to be very chivalrous, right? Protect the woman sort of thing. So if you told any of those 3, they would immediately go, well, we're going to attack Arlong. And she'd go, don't. He'll kill you. And they're like, we can probably take him.
That's fair. I feel okay. So she could tell Usopp.
You can tell the one
actually,
smart
you know
person.
What? She probably did tell Usopp. So maybe, you know, my speculation is pointless here. They've already established all of this in the show.
I also have to point out that I love that after Zoro escaped from... Well, not escape. Once Nami let him escape, he beat up all of the fodder tier people, and he just sat in Arlong's throne. He has, like, this chair that's his, and he just sat there being like, yep, I'm the king of this place now.
And he stole one of their shirts.
He stole one of their shirts, because he didn't have one from the last. Oh, man. These episodes are great. Okay. Do you have an MVP from these 3 short episodes?
That's a good question. there's so much happening. It's hard to give it just like one person.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it to Nami
Yep.
because I mean, she takes the most. Well, she takes the most action, but it's usually small actions and it's a little more subtle.
Yes. And I think that you and I both suspect at this point that she's not as evil as she seems, and maybe this is part of some kind of an act or something. And she manages to balance that pretty well. She managed to get both Zoro and Usopp to safety and out of the way of the Fishman pirates without also betraying her hand. And I think that she's doing a pretty good job keeping everyone safe.
I'm surprised that, and I mean, it could just be that Arlong is a really good liar.
Okay.
But I'm surprised he trusts her so much.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Like the rest of the pirate, I don't know if he has a name, but the one that initially like planted suspicions or said,
Oh, yeah, he has a name. We haven't heard it yet. I think I'll look it up.
Anyways, while you're looking that up, like he makes some good points. Like her whole like specialty is betrayal and what's the word I'm looking for?
Deception?
Yeah.
Okay.
Deception and betrayal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, why trust her? How do you know that she's not betraying you? Especially because she's been gone for a little bit, and it seems like that's probably her MO, is she just kind of leaves for a long period of time and then comes back with more money, right? So, it confuses me.
I agree. Maybe we'll get a little bit more. We're still too early in the series for that. So, his name is Karubi.
Karubi.
Yes. And then there's also Chu, which they sometimes spell Chu. The wiki has listed it as actually chew, like to chew food, Chew. But he's the one who captured Usopp with kind of like a longer mouth. I don't know what type of fishman he is, but anyways. How do you like this new race? Do you have any thoughts about the fishmen people in general?
This is not a question that we've had to ask before. No. I was like, wait, race? Was there were people running in here?
That race. I was thinking like, how did you like this Asian-inspired village compared to the whitewashed cast that we've met before and that sort of thing?
I would say, I don't know. The fishmen they're definitely interesting. It's kind of it's unique. I feel like amongst anime, and then even just amongst general mythology. I feel like typically when you have like fish people, they're not just human beings that have very specific fish features. They are like mermaids.
Mermaids or mermen, which have now been mentioned. Sanji said something about like, I've heard that the mermaids are beautiful from the Fishman Island type of thing.
Well, he actually just says the women.
That's right.
And I don't know if that's a translation thing or not, but
yeah, it's when I was at this part in the series, I kind of assumed that fishmen were that mermaids were real along with fishmen. But some people treat them as kind of more of a mythical thing, but then some people seem to assume that they are out there and that there's a physical place called Fishman Island. But I always assumed that all fishmen were men and all mermaids were women, but that is not true. I believe there are mermen in One Piece.
I would assume there are two different races, and that mermaids and mermen can't live on land like fishmen can.
Oh, can't, because they have more human feet and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I really like that. Yeah, I think it's interesting that this is the last part before they start heading to the Grand Line, and the Grand Line is where all these sort of mystical things happen. Devil fruits are more common there. There's all sorts of other things that we'll explore, but this is the only kind of mythical creature we've met in East Blue. I think that's really interesting that Oda seemed to keep that in mind. That, they're about to go to this place where there's a lot of strange creatures, so I'll introduce a strange Kuro and Django and Buggy were all strange, but you know what I mean? Something that is 100% not human.
Yeah, well, and on top of that, we also got Momu, which is this large, like, cow monster thing.
Which specifically came from the Grand Line.
Yeah, they point that out, yeah. So I feel like they're kind of ramping up to get us ready for the Grand Line. I
don't feel as though this show starts out completely bizarre, but I think it gets there eventually. It's getting there pretty close now.
Yeah, it scales it ramps up pretty quick.
Let's see, do I have any other questions that I normally ask you? Did any of this feel like filler to you?
No.
Yeah. It would be hard for it to be so, because that would mean that Zoro arriving was filler, or Usopp being captured was filler, or...
The Usopp death. The Usopp fake death. That's filler.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't know how they make the rest of the episode work without it. But they do.
Okay, wonderful. And then do you have any... Did you hear anything from these episodes that you want explored later in the series?
Well, I mean, obviously the 7 warlords.
Okay.
Probably some more stuff on fishmen in that.
Okay.
Just especially like seeing where they're from and seeing what they're generally like, or if they're all pirates.
Okay.
Those are probably the 2 big ones.
Okay.
Specifically on the 7 warlords part.
Sure. So, being a longtime fan of the series, later there will be chapters where I go, oh, Oda foreshadowed this a long time ago. They mention, whatever. They meet a giant giraffe with purple hair, and it's the best swordsman in the world, and you go, oh, that's right, they did mention that purple hair people are better swordsmen earlier in the series. So I wrote down questions I should ask you each episode, and one of them is, do you see anything that's like world building or foreshadowing? But we also have summarized the episodes, and a lot of the times when we're summarizing the episodes, you hit on the points that might come up later and be expanded upon.
I did think it was interesting, the map room that they show Nami in. So when she first became part of the pirate crew,
yep,
and Arlong gives her that room, and then she has that treasure map that she made for herself. So I thought there was going to be something more there, but I think it might just be that they just wanted her to learn cartography.
Okay, interesting.
So I don't know if that's something that comes up more, other than the fact that it just establishes that she is good at, navigation.
Oh, and cartography and that sort of thing. Yep. Okay, yeah, wonderful. Do you have any other thoughts from these episodes?
Nope.
Okay.
Good.
Wonderful. I want to see Usopp utilize his death as a way of putting fear into the fishmen. I want him to show back up and be like, you tried to kill me, but you couldn't. Oh, humans are more powerful than you could possibly imagine.
Oh, he could do that.
Yeah.
That would fit him.
All right, so the official outro will go here, and the next episode should cover 4 episodes of the anime, but if something changes, we will put that at the end after the official outro. Thank you, and have a great day. So ends the next leg of the King of the What Now adventure. We're sad to see you go, but we'll be here next week. If you crave some social interaction with us in the meantime, you can find us on all sorts of different media. We have Gmail, Patreon, and Tumblr. All of those are King of the What Pod. King of the What Pod at gmail.com, patreon.com/King of the What Pod, kingofthewhatpod.tumblr.com. Our Twitter handlers are a little bit different. You can reach me at KOTWN_pod.
And you can contact me, Curtis, at Pirate Co-host. Also, please take a moment to rate and review our podcast on whatever platform you're using to listen. Not only will this help others find the podcast, but your constructive feedback will help us improve the show as we go.
Thanks so much for giving us a listen. Until next time, follow your dreams and protect your treasure.
Remember, it doesn't need to be literal treasure.
Hello folks, this is Joel from the future. If you're watching episodes at home of One Piece before listening to the podcast, episode 20 of King of the What Now will be covering 4 episodes. Those are episodes 34, 35, 36, and the epic 37. Those episode titles are Reunited, Usopp tells Nami's true story, The Hidden Past, female fighter Bellamere, Survive, the mother Bellamere and Nami's family, and Luffy Stands Up, End of a Broken Promise. You won't want to miss these episodes. Have a good day.